All right, James, meeting's now live. This is a test. Can anyone hear me?
Yep.
Thanks, Margarita.
Right?
this is a test for John. John, can you hear me?
Okay, councillors, I'll declare the meeting open. I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to their elders, both past and present. Before commencing, can I just check with Councillor Hesse and Councillor De Cruz? Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Thanks, Councillor Byrne. I can, yes.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Councillors, are there any apologies for tonight's meeting? No? Disclosures of interest. I'll make a disclosure about the same item that I've disclosed at previous meetings, which I think Catherine will have the wording for. Councillor Macri, are you making the same declaration again?
Councillor Macri is not yet in the meeting.
Okay, no problem. Can I suggest that we record that, given it's the same item, so that we don't have to wait for him, and if he wishes to withdraw it, we can go back and resolve that later. Will someone move the adoption of those disclosures?
Also move, Mayor.
So Councillor Hesse will move the acceptance of those disclosures, seconded by Councillor De Cruz. All those in favour, against, declare that carried. The notice of webcasting, there's no participants in the public forum tonight because that's been completed already, so no need to notify councillors of the webcasting. Can I ask everyone to please join me for a moment of quiet contemplation? Thank you, councillors. There being, now I might suggest that there are no mayoral minutes. I might suggest, I know there is a condolence motion for Mike Bailey, which will hold over to the next proper ordinary meeting, given this meeting's been convened specifically just for the remainder of the previous agenda. So that will bring us to reports. So the first item on the agenda tonight, councillors, is Item 1, Greenway Engagement Officer. Discussion? Councillor Drury?
Yeah, may I move the resolution as printed?
Okay, if you don't wish to speak to it, is there a seconder for that?
Happy to second that.
Seconded by Councillor Kiat. Are there any amendments or anyone to speak against? If not, I'll put that. All those in
Just a
favour?
thank you to the staff on progressing that matter following our resolution on it.
Excellent. Thanks for that. I'll put that. All those in favour?
Mr. Mayor,
Against?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councillor Passos.
I've been told how to press a button to raise my hand. I had it done. Apparently you didn't see it. I have a few questions to ask on this.
Okay, no problem. Over to you.
The first question is, do we know who this, have we hired anybody yet? Through you
Put that
to the
question to the
officer?
officers. I'll put that question to the officers.
Through the chair, yes, we have hired the Greenway Engagement Officer. That person started last week.
Could we have his name?
Her name is,
Do we need to,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll just call you to order there, Councillor Passos. It wouldn't be a normal course of events for us to start revealing the personal details of council employees. So is there another way of putting the question or a purpose to the question other than just having the name recorded?
Oh, yes, we'd like, can councillors be told who it is?
Yeah, but that wouldn't, I think you could just put that as a question outside of the council chamber rather than breaching.
Okay, fair enough. And what's the remuneration and what are the conditions of this engagement? How long?
I think that's in the same category, Councillor Passos. They're contractual details about a council officer. I suggest you put that to the general manager outside of the public forum.
I thought that might have been in the discussion and the report. All right, not the name, but okay, I'll follow up tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. There being no further discussion, I'll put the resolution. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. I presume that's unanimous. That is unanimous. Item 2, minutes of Audit and Risk and Improvement Committee meeting, 19 May. Councillors?
Move that way.
Yes, I move this.
Yeah, can I ask some questions on this one?
Yeah, just a moment. So I've got the officer's recommendation, the recommendation moved by Councillor Drury, seconded by Councillor Steer. If neither of them need to speak to the motion, I'll go to Councillor Passos for her questions.
No, I don't need to speak to it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Passos.
Okay, yep. Now, what I'd like to know is, I don't know if the policy's changed, but I recall previously the chair of the audit committee used to address council. When was the last time the chair had addressed council?
I'll put
I'll take that question. Thank you, through the chair. I'm unaware of the last time the chairman or chairperson has addressed council, but that was discussed in the recent self-assessment with the committee, and that possibility is an option if council would like the chairperson to address council.
Thank you for that. Also, I've gone through it. There really doesn't seem to be much information or on really what the discussions were, not getting into things that maybe cannot be made public or go on the agenda. But all I seem to see here is who moved what and reports be received and noted. There's really not much information in this report. In fact, none at all.
Minutes.
Not the minutes, nothing what was discussed and what they were.
Councillor Passos, you speaking to the item?
Well, yes, I am.
Okay, please proceed.
It's just that I'm reading things and it's really telling me nothing. It's just telling me who moved and who seconded items. It's it might be the minutes, but the minutes aren't telling us what they discussed and what they moved. I just thought I'd raise that. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried report on tree loss in Ashfield and Leichhardt wards. Sorry, notice of motion, council website, weekly update on street maintenance. Councillor Macri, are you with us?
Mayor, I'm happy to move the resolution.
I can see that Victor is online, so I'll just check whether he can hear us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Yeah, Chair. Thanks for that. Basically, a lot of the concern the residents have come to me is that they just don't know what's being done in their street, and it's really helping them keep informed about what's happening. Really, I would have liked to actually have this sort of moving forward with staff to put a schedule forward, but staff have told me it's too difficult because weather changes and things happen and schedules change. So I think it's a good way to comfort the community, to let them know where we have been and what work is being done in the street, and people can check back and say, look, my street hasn't been done. Well, we go back on the schedule and say, well, actually, yes, it has. So it's a way of keeping them informed, and I don't see any issue with it. I don't think it's a great onerous thing on council to do, to try and keep the councils informed the residents informed about what's happening and council's efforts in that. Thank you. That's it. Yep. Thank you, Chair.
Mayor, may I second this?
Yes, Councillor Drury, please proceed.
Yeah, look, Councillor Macri, I think this is a terrific idea. I fully support this. I think it is good for people to know when stuff has been done. I think many people are not at home all the time, and they often will say, well, my street wasn't done. And then you go back to the offices and you find, well, actually your street was done, you just weren't there and you didn't see it being done. So having this, I think, is a great way of people knowing where things are up to, what streets have been done and where things are up to. I note it does cost a bit to do, and I think that's a cost, that's an appropriate cost to pay so our community knows what's going on. I'd urge everyone to support this.
Thanks for that, Councillor Drury. Is there anyone who wishes to amend the motion?
Oh, I'd like to speak on it.
Yeah, Councillor Passis, go ahead.
Yes, I support this motion. I don't know why we have to hire new staff for this. I'm pretty sure staff that would only cost us $14,000 a year, I'm pretty sure that we've already got staff there that would be able to do this. We have the technology, and I really don't know why this would cost an extra $14,000. It seems like it would only be part-time staff, as it says here, and it'd have to be very part-time for $14,000. I cannot see why that there is money there for it, but if each department got together, given the money we've spent on IT, I'm pretty sure it can be done without hiring new staff. I support this motion too.
Thanks very much, Councillor Passis. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask a question.
Yeah, please do.
Look, I support the motion. I think it's a good idea. But I was just, the officer's comments do say that we need to identify this 14,000 per annum. So through the mayor to the general manager, can we move to approve this without identifying the 14,000, or do we need to identify the 14,000?
I'll put that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Look, at the end of the day, Rochelle, it's a small amount. I'll be speaking with the director about how we can do that. It's one day, it's one position day a week. So if we can't do it through shuffling around existing resources and we need to fund above and beyond, which is alluded to, we'll then do it in the quarterly budget review. It's only because it's such a small amount.
Okay, great. I'll just speak to it briefly. Look, I do think that these sort of proposals where we're getting better communication happening with the community and we're allowing them to know the work that's actually going on in council are a good idea. I think that the way it's being proposed, which appears to be just a list of work that's been done the previous week, might actually be quite difficult for people to see if their street has had work done on it, in the sense of actually doing a search. So I'm wondering if we could perhaps have this set up more as a spreadsheet where people could look up their street and see what works have been done, say, for the last 6 months, year, which I think would be easier than just seeing a list every week. So perhaps Councillor Macri might consider amending to have this set up as a spreadsheet, updating it every week and identifying the new works every week, but enabling people who haven't had work done in the last week to still find their street and to still find out what's been done recently on their street.
So is that a specific amendment that you're proposing, Councillor Porteous?
Yeah, it is, because I think, I haven't got the wording with me, but I'd propose just that just as an additional sentence at the end, that a spreadsheet also be provided with works over the previous 12 months for each street in the council to be similarly updated weekly.
Councillor Macri, are you amenable to that being incorporated into the motion?
I thought that's what, as I wrote the motion, I thought that's what I wanted. I wanted them to update something that would stay on the council website so they could go back and look and see and find. I'm happy to accept the amendment if it helps improve it. Not a problem in the view of trying to get consensus on it. That's all.
Okay.
Can I go to the General Manager just to ask for any advice about how that would work?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Look, I just, instead of the word spreadsheet, I just want to speak to the comms team. I'm all for having the history over time, so to make it easier for residents. But we'll just, if we could just say that we can keep a history of the works undertaken the previous 12 months. I'll let the comms team and see what we can work out in terms of getting the website to work best for residents to search. That's all.
Okay.
So, if you're amenable to that.
Happy to accept the General Manager's advice on that.
Yeah, look, in that case, I'll withdraw my amendment because I think the General Manager understands what the councillors want to see on the site.
Okay. Okay, that's all sorted then. There's no further discussion. Thanks very much, Councillor Macri, for such a sensible idea. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried unanimously. Next item. Notice of motion, tree loss in Ashfield and Leichhardt wards.
Mr. Mayor, I'm quite happy with the comments from the officers there.
Sorry, Councillor Stamoulis, we're not quite getting you there. You're cutting out.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better.
Okay. I'm quite happy with the comments from the officers there, so I'm happy for this motion just to go through like as it is. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a seconder for the motion?
I'm happy to second that.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Kiat. There's no further discussion. I'll put that. All those in favour?
I just want to say quickly, it's pretty remarkable what Councillor Stamoulis's investigation into the ward distribution of the canopy loss has shown. It shows that a huge majority of the loss of tree canopy has been in the ward that I represent. I think that is a real shame. It's already an area that doesn't have good tree canopy. Having lived in the north area of Ashfield for many years, it always struck me that the urban heat issue was very considerable, particularly in areas with high density of apartments. And those are exactly the areas where the people who live there don't necessarily have a say on whether trees on their property are removed because they're not the owners of the property. So look, I'm really, I think it's a huge priority for council to have this policy reviewed. We need to stop losing our tree canopy. We need to actually build it up again. And I think this shows that Ashfield Ward is a priority for that. So I'll look forward to receiving more information in the context of the policy review, because I think, yeah, that is really one of the key tasks that the new council needs to undertake.
Thanks for that. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Against?
I had my
That
hand.
carried.
I had my hand raised. It doesn't seem to be working.
Okay, sorry, Councillor Passos, go on.
Well, all I wanted to say is, in my estimation, in all my life here in Ashfield, I believe we've had the most loss of canopies because we had the most canopy. Ashfield had very big blocks, single homes. We had more trees. A lot of them, their use-by date is up. They had to go, and we just haven't kept up with replacing. We've lost the most because we had the most compared to Leichhardt and Marrickville.
Okay, I'll now put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? Declare that carried unanimously. Notice of motion, plastics.
Thanks, Mayor. It's been a while. Many of these motions. Look, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I know council's done their bit, certainly in the form of Marrickville LGA, but I think in the others as well, about getting people an opportunity to drink from a bubbler or from a tap to fill up their water bottle rather than buying plastic bottles. I note that the state government is moving on this issue as well, and it'd be great if we can encourage our shopping centres, the places like the Metro and so on to help in that direction. So I hope that you will put your pen to a letter to to those places, Councillor Byrne. And look, I'm happy if it suits people. I mean, and we are coming to we are past June. I think I wrote this motion in April. That perhaps I would amend my own motion and suggest that perhaps it's a report for the October council meeting, so that new councillors can discuss that if someone is prepared to second my motion, if people are amenable to go along that way.
Yes, Councillor Steer will second that motion.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Steer. Do you wish to speak to it?
Very briefly, Mayor, thank you. I commend Councillor Hesse on this motion. Some time ago, I think in 2018, we voted to stop the use of single-use plastics in all council events and operations. That was a long and complicated motion, but it has been implemented and it is working well. So this is an extension of our policy on discouraging the use of single-use plastics. And while we can't really control what the shopping centre owners do, we can give them encouragement and support to do the right thing. And I think it's an excellent motion that will make a big difference. Single-use plastics are a massive form of pollution, particularly in the Cooks River and our other waterways, but also, they really simply do not degrade and are not reused and cannot be reused. And therefore we really need to be what Sky News calls the woke council and really push this policy forward to help our environment. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Councillor Passos?
Yes. Well, if anybody lives in Ashfield, to know that if anyone can find a plastic bottle in Ashfield, they're very, very lucky. Our residents here, you only have to see the bags and bags of bottles that are collected and recycled at a recycle venue near my home. And you see many baby prams walking around piled with bags of bottles. You cannot even see the people who are pushing them. Now, as for writing to the shopping centres, I cannot see the owners of these shopping centres doing something that's going against what their tenants are selling. The vending machines have bottled water. The supermarkets have bottled water. The fast food has bottled water. I cannot see these people that are running these shopping centres taking away funding and profit for their tenants. So in hindsight, it might look good in this motion, but I think these type of motions are redundant. Plastic is being recycled and used for many, many things. I think this has been done to death. I don't have a problem voting with it because it'll go nowhere. People are addressing this issue. Bottles are being recycled. Our council can tell you how much we're losing out on the state government's initiative on recycling. So it's taken up a bit of time. It looks good as a green motion, but as I said, it's redundant.
Okay, there's no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, declare that carried unanimously, I believe. That is unanimous. Item 6, notice of motion, CAS award win. Councillor Drury, do you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, simply to recognise one of the premier community organisations in the inner west, which is so premier that the premier recognised them by giving them the Multicultural Community Medal. We've had dealings with CAS for many years. They provide very significant services into our area, and it's good to
Mr.
see.
Mayor, I'll second this motion, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Passos, could I ask you to desist from interjecting? Councillor Drury, please proceed.
Yeah, and it's good to see the Premier recognising what we all know. Great organisation, well deserved.
Thanks very much for that. I'm happy to second the motion and I won't need to interject to do so. Thanks very much, Councillor Drury, for drafting this motion, and I concur with everything you've said about this excellent local community organisation. I won't speak to it further. Councillor Passos, did you wish to speak to it?
Only that I did second it, Mayor, but if you want to, okay, I'll accept that. Thank you.
Okay, I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously, I presume. That is unanimous. I'll now absent myself from the meeting.
Thanks. Thanks, Chair.
I move that Councillor Stamalis chair the meeting.
I have to, thanks, councillors. I just have to conduct a quick election if someone wants to chair. So Councillor Passos has suggested Councillor Stamalis chair. Do I have anyone else that wants to move that someone chair? Because we do, if I get more than one, I have to do a little election, that's all.
Can I suggest Councillor McKenna? I think Councillor McKenna did volunteer when this motion was originally listed some time ago.
Okay, I just need to, that's good. Is anyone else that wants to nominate the chair? So I just have to put together a quick vote. So for those that, if there's no other nominations, for those that, and if councillors are happy to just do this by show of hands, I assume they are.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that who would like to vote for Councillor Stamalis to chair this particular item?
Can you see our hands?
Catherine? She's got councillors Passos, Porteous, and I assume Stamalis. Anyone else? No? No?
Yes, De Cruz.
Rossetti.
The Stamalis. And for Councillor McKenna, so that's it, that's 4. And just for Councillor McKenna. Can you see it, Catherine?
Sorry, Peter, it's 5 with Stamoulis.
Fine. So, John, did you say no, though? Just checking, Rochelle.
No, I said no.
You're not voting for yourself?
No.
Okay.
I did
Okay.
nominate.
So, Councillors Hesse, McKenna, Skander, York, Steer, Lockie. Okay. Anyone else? John, are you not voting?
I'm not voting, but I do have a question through the chair.
Yeah, can I just finish? I'll just finish this, unless it's to do with the election. Can I just finish this a little bit first?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Stamalos.
I'm not sure what Councillor Drury is doing.
Drury? All right. Is that it, Catherine?
I always vote for McKenna. Come on.
Okay.
I think
So
we might be missing one councillor.
one councillor.
Stamoulis hasn't voted.
Okay. Well, I'll state that as
Thank you.
John's abstained. All right. Thanks. I'll declare that Councillor McKenna to chair this next item. I'll hand over to Councillor McKenna, and if you've got any questions, Councillor Stamalos, you can direct it this way.
I'll just unmute. Thank you very much, councillors. So item 7, notice of motion, Mayor to stand down. Councillor Passis, you're moving?
Yes.
Right, and do you have a seconder? Or is there somebody willing to second?
Councillor McKenna?
Yes?
I have a foreshadowed motion.
You have what?
I have a foreshadowed motion.
I see. All right. So is it, have you handed it to the minute taker so we can see what it is?
Okay, well, I'm about to do that now.
Thank you. You
but
do
I need-
that. We'll establish if there is a seconder for this motion. Is there a seconder? Nobody's coming forward to second?
There's no seconder for my motion?
It doesn't sound like it, councillor. I can't hear anyone. So if there's no seconder, the motion will lapse.
The foreshadowed motion.
Point of order, Mayor, Councillor McKenna. I believe that if there is no substantive motion, then you cannot have a foreshadowed motion, because a foreshadowed motion can only occur if there is a substantive motion. The substantive motion has gone down.
No, it hasn't.
Lapsed.
No,
It's
it hasn't.
lapsed for a lack of seconder. Therefore, I don't think you can entertain a foreshadow.
I did. Didn't Councillor Stamoulis second my motion?
No, Councillor Passis, nobody has seconded the motion at this stage. So therefore, I've given a lot of time to this for a seconder to come forward. If there's no
Declared it
second,
lapsed.
the motion lapses.
Councillor McKenna.
So that, yes, Councillor Stamoulis.
I asked you if I could put a foreshadowed motion forward.
That was based on the fact that we would get a seconder. Nobody has seconded.
Oh, well, then
So-
I'll second the motion. I'm happy to second it then. Okay.
All right, you're going to second. So Councillor Passis is moving and Councillor Stamoulis is seconding.
Point of order, Mayor.
Thank you.
Point of order. Point of order. Look, my apologies, Councillor McKenna. You have declared very clearly that the original motion has lapsed.
No,
Sorry.
it's not.
Please,
It's not a
Councillor
point of order.
Desist, I need
May
to.
I finish my sentence, please, in an orderly fashion?
No, I asked whether I could have a foreshadowed.
Excuse me.
Could we
I
have one
asked.
person speak at a time, please? Councillor Drury is speaking on a point of order. Thank you, Councillor Drury.
Councillor McKenna, you sought a seconder for the substantive motion. You persisted, and then I clearly heard you declare that that motion had lapsed. I think everyone else heard you declare that motion lapsed.
I have a point of order after you.
Well,
Thank you,
may I
Councillor.
finish my sentence in an orderly fashion, please, Councillor Passos? So you have declared that the original motion had lapsed. It was only then that Councillor Stamalos
No,
realised.
Incorrect.
Thank you, Councillor Drury. You
Sorry.
are. I
Sorry.
did say 3 times that the motion has lapsed because there's no seconder. I did
I have a
ask
point. I
at
have
least
a point of
3
order.
times. And Councillor Passos, you have a point of order. What's your point of order?
Sorry, I haven't finished my point of order, please.
Oh, sorry, Councillor.
Can
I
I
thought you-
finish my, please?
Yes. Sorry.
Councillor,
Go on. Proceed, Councillor Drury.
it was only after you had declared that the motion had lapsed, and therefore there was no capacity for council to entertain a foreshadowed motion, that Councillor Stamalos stepped forward and suggested that he would second the original motion. I believe that having declared the motion lapsed, there is no capacity for a foreshadowed motion, that we should move on to item 8 in an orderly and usual fashion. I seek your ruling to move to item 8.
A question through the chair, please.
I have a point of order.
Councillor, thank you, Councillor Drury. I hear what you say. In goodwill, I will retract the fact that I did say it lapsed. I said it 3 times. Councillor Stamalos did indicate he wanted to have another motion at the beginning, just to allow this to proceed. I think I'm happy to seek the goodwill of the councillors to go back and say, if councillor is prepared to second it, Stamalos, we will look at his motion and then hopefully vote on it. So thank you for your contributions, Councillor Drury. Councillor Passos, you've been interjecting. What is it you wanted to say? You are mute. Councillor, you're mute.
Councillor Passos, we can't hear you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
I'm not Mayor, I'm Councillor McKenna.
Councillor McKenna,
You're mute again.
yes, that's right, I've got it now. Thank you for that ruling, because Councillor Stamalos did ask, could he move another motion? I'm glad he seconded the motion. This motion I've put up reluctantly, even though it's been around for so long. I think the motion speaks for itself. I supported the Mayor for 2 years, and it was very reluctantly that I put this motion up. And it's there for the councillors. It's been around for a while. Councillors have the opportunity, if they have anything to say, and councillors have the opportunity to vote for or against it. Thank you. I'd like to hear what Councillor Stamalos put up. Thank you.
Councillor Stamalos, is your motion there? So
It
we can
should
see it?
It should be up. Thank you, Councillor McKenna. And thank you for your ruling on this, Councillor McKenna. I think it was very fair. And in fact, you asked me to provide wording for my foreshadowed motion to the minute taker, meaning that I felt as though you suggested that we were going forward with the foreshadowed motion. The reason why I did not support the original motion, which I hope in fact Councillor Passos withdraws, but that's up to her. That's up to her. But I thank you for being reasonable. But my foreshadowed motion is simply that Council expresses a lack of confidence in the Mayor. I don't believe that we can ask, or we can ask the Mayor to stand down, but I don't believe that he has to do such a thing if he doesn't wish to do so. And I think that the next best thing is to express that there are some concerns. Some of them have been publicised, and I don't wish to go any further into it. We've received advice from the General Manager today, an email to all councillors, and I don't think it's appropriate to go any further than that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So the two motions are not consistent. The one, they're quite different to each other. So Councillor Passos, do you want to accept?
I'll withdraw my motion and accept the foreshadowed motion.
All right, so the foreshadowed motion becomes the motion. Does anybody wish to speak to it? No speakers?
Yeah.
No hand up?
Yeah. Councillor McKenna.
Councillor
Councillor Kiat.
Kiat. All right, you wish to speak to it? Right, thank you. Proceed.
The wording that's now the primary motion, obviously that's new and I'll give it some consideration, but I also prepared some wording for a foreshadowed motion, which I've provided to the minute taker. And it's in relation to the process that we all know is going on.
Point of order, Mayor. Point of order, Councillor McKenna. I don't believe you can have a foreshadowed motion to a foreshadowed motion. If the original lapses, then you need to deal with the foreshadowed. I don't believe you can have a further foreshadowed motion. That's not envisaged within the rules.
Point of order. Point of order. And Lucilla, I'm sure you probably know this anyway, but that has become the primary motion now, the motion that Councillor Stamoulis has put forward. So as a primary motion, you can therefore have a foreshadowed motion. But as a former mayor, I know you know that stuff.
Just looking at this motion, this foreshadowed motion is, I don't think this is something that should be discussed at this particular time. It is a process in continuing, and it's in relation to various codes of conduct. I think this is not something that I would accept as a foreshadowed motion.
Well, point of order, Councillor McKenna. This is in the press. All this information that's in this motion is in the public realm. There's nothing there that's not in the public realm. So there's absolutely no reason you can't discuss it. It's already in the public realm.
Sorry. Further point of order, Mayor, Councillor McKenna. What has been brought up has got nothing to do with either the original motion or the foreshadowed motion. It is a separate matter, and should Councillor Kiat wish to put it in as a notice of motion, then do so. But this does not relate to the tabled motion. I don't accept the understanding that that you can have a motion, a foreshadowed, withdraw the original, and then just put in another foreshadowed. A meeting could go on infinitum that way. I don't think that's a correct understanding that has been provided by
Point of order. Can we have some adjudication on this?
I'm not accepting this foreshadowed motion. It is different to the actual motion that we're now discussing, and I think it does relate to various codes of conduct, but just because it's been in the press, it does not make it right. So as far my ruling is that I'm not accepting this as a foreshadowed motion. It is contrary to what we're discussing. So,
point of order. I would like to get point of order. I'd like to get a
it-
ruling from the general manager.
and it is still under. It is still. The ruling has not yet been made from NCAT, and I think this is inappropriate for us to be discussing this at this time. So I'm happy to ask the General Manager. General Manager, would you, what would you think of this?
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Can I just respectfully request a brief adjournment while I just check with our governance people with respect to this?
Yes, all right. Thank you for that. So we'll adjourn the meeting for.
This is, excuse me,
10 minutes.
Chair,
Yes.
this is unacceptable. We have rules. We have, Councillor Drew usually has the Code of Meeting Practice and Conduct book alongside him.
We do
Why do
have.
we need an adjournment?
I've got it with me, councillor. Don't worry about it.
Clause
It takes
10,
time to
17.
look it up, and it's much easier to have an adjournment. So we will adjourn the meeting for 10 minutes. Thank you. Hello? Yes, yeah.
Lucille, you need to mute.
Chair, are we still on?
Yeah, thanks. I just need a bit longer, councillor.
Can you tell me what the problem is? This is not right. We have the rules.
I'm just having a look at the county council meeting procedure. Just won't be a minute.
I'll just say, look, I've been looking.
All right, just hang on a sec. I'll say something. Thanks, councillors and Councillor McKenna.
Are we recommencing or is,
Yeah, we've got. I've been speaking to our general counsel, and
Yes.
her and I have just been going through it, so we'll talk to that.
thank you, Mr. General Manager.
All right, so we're declaring the meeting open.
Yes, we'll declare
Chair?
the meeting open, yes. You there,
Okay.
Catherine?
So yeah, look, we've hopefully she is.
Yes, coming, hopefully.
Are you there, Catherine?
I'm there. Just got the minutes back up now. Sorry.
So we're at item 7.
Can you tell me what we're waiting on, please?
We're waiting to get back the meeting to be open again, Councillor.
Thank you.
Once Catherine tells us everything's in order, we can start.
I'm just getting everything back as my Microsoft Word crashed. So
let us know when you're ready.
Another minute.
Thank you.
Did the general manager say we're waiting on the general counsel, Marcia Downey?
No, he's discussed this with the General Counsel, is what the General Manager said, and we're waiting for Catherine to get everything back online.
Thank you.
Okay, we're okay.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, General Manager. We're right now.
Thank you. I might throw. So I've been chatting to the General Counsel and the way it's worded, and she may elaborate more, that the way it's currently worded, it would be considered out of order, but I'll get the General Counsel to elaborate.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Through the chair, as I understand where we are is that Councillor Passos put forward a motion, which was, and then Councillor Stamoulis put forward a foreshadowed motion in relation to Councillor Passos's motion. Councillor Passos then withdrew her motion, and so Councillor Stamoulis's motion became the substantive motion. And now Councillor Kiat has put forward a foreshadowed motion in relation to Councillor Stamoulis's motion. I have a concern about just one element of Councillor Kiat's foreshadowed motion, in that it talks about noting with concern the findings made by the New South Wales Civil and Administrative Tribunal on the 4th of May. And I'm just not sure whether that may contravene a provision in the Code of Meeting Practice, which prevents, well, it says that where personal reflections are made about a councillor, that can be an act of disorder. And so I'm just noting that potential for those words, noting with concern as to whether conceived as a personal reflection, which could then result in an act of disorder. So I just wanted to raise consideration. The findings of NCAT is okay because that is factual, but the noting with concern could conceivably, on a conservative view, be interpreted to be a
personal reflection.
Personal reflection.
Personal
exactly.
reflection
Yes.
or imputes property information. Yeah, that's that clause 1511 in the Code of Meeting Practice.
That's exactly right, Councillor McKenna.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor
All right.
McKenna.
So thank you for that.
Councillor McKenna.
No, Councillor Passis, you just hold, please. Thank you for that. The General Counsel has given us advice. So I'm not going to accept this foreshadowed motion. I'm going to consider it out of order.
Councillor McKenna.
For reasons that because, well, the General Counsel has given us advice, but I also have very grave concerns that this is, it does make personal reflections and possibly is an act of disorder. And so so that we don't get ourselves into any area.
I have a point of order. I have a point of order.
I'm speaking.
I have a point of order.
Yes, Councillor Passis, what is the point of order?
Your concerns are the same as Councillor Kiat. So you have, then you're breaching it if you have concerns on what Councillor Kiat has got up.
Councillor Passis, I'm not quite sure. That is not making any sense. I'm just quoting the Code of Meeting Practice under acts of disorder, and for that reason, I am not going to accept.
Councillor McKenna, Councillor McKenna, Councillor Kiat's trying to talk to you.
All right, I was speaking. I will now, Councillor Kiat, you have something to say?
Thanks, Councillor McKenna. Look, I hear what Ms. Doney's saying. She said it's on a very conservative reading, I think, or on a conservative reading. The words "with concern" could be deemed to be a personal reflection. I mean, I think that the concern is not in relation to Councillor Byrne personally, but in relation to the findings that were made in relation to his conduct. But if you are of the view that this motion would be out of order with the words "with concern" in points 1 and point 3, then those words can be deleted.
I'm also, thank you, yes, they could, but I'm also of concern that this was not part of, it's a substantial change to the motion. It's a large addition, and this was not notified in the meeting agenda as is required under point 3.6 of the Code of Meeting Practice. So on several areas, I really, when we're adding things as large as this motion, this foreshadowed motion, to one line, I think that is also a concern. So
can I try and address that, Councillor McKenna? Because I mean, what I'm trying to do here is pretty simple. Points 1 and 2 note that there's a process going on under NCAT, which we all know it could lead to Councillor Byrne being suspended, or it could not. But that's not our role. And so all it does is note that findings have been made and that they're considering taking action. And we don't know what that action will be. And I think the reason we do that is because, well, that's a legitimate process for the mayor's conduct to be considered and for action to be taken, as opposed to councillors doing what Councillor Passes proposes. And then point 3, I think legitimately looks to go back to a finding that was made in relation to Councillor Byrne's conduct and also some recent reporting in relation to that issue. And note it because I think it's relevant to the issues that Councillor Passes is trying to raise, but I think it does what's more appropriate and simply notes them, because really there's 2 legitimate paths for the mayor to be removed, and one is via NCAT and one is from the voters. So I think that this motion doesn't try to do anything improper, and I think if it's seen in that light, it's not. I don't think it could be seen to be out of order.
You are making my life difficult. This is still a live topic. This is still in the hands of NCAT. All right, they've made some decisions, but there hasn't been a final outcome. So,
that's right. And that's what this says. It says notes that NCAT is still in the process of considering what penalty should apply, and that's just factual.
And I also know
point of order. There has been an outcome. There has been an outcome.
A final decision has not been.
Final decision is on the penalty, not the case. There has been an outcome.
Exactly. Thank you, Councillor Passes, for correcting me. This is. I'm still of. We're moving a long way.
Councillor McKenna. Point of order, Councillor McKenna.
Yes, Councillor.
Councillor McKenna, previously we adjourned in order to get the advice of the council officers.
Yeah.
The councillors' officers. So you basically accepted that we needed to get the council officers' advice in order to determine whether this motion was in order or not. The council officers have come back and said the only issue that they have with this motion is the use of the words "with concern." Councillor Kiat has removed those words "with concern."
No, those motions they have
and
not.
So, so I think that rather than it then defaults to you because you really don't want to go ahead with this motion and you're going to kill it any way you can, it really needs to go back to the council officers and us. I withdraw that. I withdraw that.
Thank you, Councillor.
But if you sought the advice of the council officers previously, and you're concerned that this is now a personal reflection and an act of disorder, can we please ask the council officers if this motion, as it stands with the removal of "with concern," is now in order as a motion, or are we going to have to accept your personal ruling on it, which is,
ruling.
Well, it is a personal ruling because you've had it, in my opinion, you've had advice from the council officers that with the removal of "with concern," it's now in order, and you're personally deciding that you don't want this to be on the council papers tonight. You don't want us to vote on it. That's your personal decision you're making.
Right,
you're overriding the council officers.
No, I'm not, because I had not accepted it as a foreshadowed motion. 1, 2, I had, when I got that advice, I made the ruling that it was was out of order. Now, you're asking me to change my mind after making that decision that it is out of order. Councillor Kiat,
point of order. You already went to the council staff for their adjudication. That is the last decision you made was that. So your decision is to defer to the council staff for the determination on this, which is what was done. They gave that. They said what needs to be removed. It's been removed. The motion is now in order, in my opinion.
Councillor, it hasn't been removed because
Councillor Kiat has offered to remove the words "with concern." I mean, they can be. I'm sure Councillor Kiat will confirm that.
All right. Well, I think that the best thing is this is a foreshadowed motion. Now, can somebody help me? Foreshadowed motion. We've got
I'm happy to
substantive
second the
motion.
foreshadowed motion.
We need to vote on whether this is a foreshadowed motion. So we need to vote on the
Substantive motion first of all.
substantive motion first, and then this only becomes the motion if the other one fails.
Yeah.
Councillor
So-
McKenna.
Sorry,
And
Councillor
I'm happy to
McKenna.
second this.
Can you
Foreshadowed motion.
stop talking, please, Councillor Porteous, for a minute? Councillor Drury, what is it you have to say?
Councillor McKenna, I go back to my original point of order, the point of order that was not addressed in the advice you received from the General Manager. And that point of order is that this proposed motion is a very long way from the original motion as printed.
Point of
And-
order.
Point of order. Point of
And-
order.
I'm allowed to speak.
Who's that?
Let me finish my point, please. So it is a very long way away from it is a very long way away from the original motion, and it is even a very long way away from the
Point of order.
what has become the substantive motion. What we
Point of order.
have is
There's been a point of order put in, Chair.
I am making a point of order. I am allowed to
Councillor
finish
Drury
my
is
point of
still
order.
speaking.
Point of order. There is no relevance here at all. Discussion, no relevance.
Councillor Drury, continue, please.
Thank you. And look, Councillor, Mayor, you have made you've made a decision, which I've accepted, that the substantive motion is now expresses lack of confidence. What is being proposed here is a very long way away from that, and I believe your ruling that it should be out of order should be sustained. I noted that the council officers did not address that point, and I would urge you to stick to that point.
Thank you, Councillor Drury. Councillor Timolis, what are you asking? What's your point of order?
Thank you, Councillor McKenna. I would like to ask for an adjudication from the General Manager on precisely those points raised by Councillor Drury, which I consider to be completely irrelevant. If we could get some advice, thank you.
No, I'm not going to ask any further advice. I've made the decision. And at this point in time, we have a substantive motion, we have a foreshadowed motion, which I haven't accepted, but we haven't voted. We'll vote on them on the, is there anybody wishing to speak to the substantive motion?
Councillor McKenna,
Mm.
can I just clarify? It's Councillor Lockie, sorry.
Oh, right. Lockie.
Sorry, I've been trying to jump in for a bit.
Sorry.
Can I just clarify, are we going to be considering, look, I think I'm just going to declare here that with point 3 of the foreshadowed motion, clearly that's to do with the code of conduct that I brought. That's all on the public record. So look, just given the timbre of this debate and given the whole reason we are discussing this item in the first place is to do with conflict of interest processes, I'm going to declare, I think it's a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest, but in just to be completely on the safe side, I'm going to step out of the debate now. And
well, that Councillor Lockie, that's another reason I have not accepted this as I've ruled it out of order. So we're not going to be discussing it, and we should not be discussing it. I've made the ruling. We're now going back to voting on this, to addressing the substantive motion, and we
Point
will.
of order. Point of
we will
order,
address.
Chair.
We
I
will
have a
vote
point.
on
I
the
have a
substantive
point of
motion,
order.
which is Yes, Councillor Passes. What is your point of order?
My point of order is we sought advice from our legal person that said there was one word that could be construed as out of order. One word. Is that the ruling you're making because of one word?
Councillor Passis, you don't have to, I don't have to answer to the fact that I have made the ruling.
Yes, but you've got to give a reason why you've made the ruling.
I've made the ruling based on clause 1511D of the Code of Meeting Practice. That is what I've made the ruling on. And Councillor Lockie has raised another issue which I had already identified and said it related to a code of conduct, which I don't think we should be discussing here, and it's not part of this motion. And then there's point 3.6 as well, where it was not advertised in the agenda. So for all of those reasons, we are going back to the substantive motion. So is there anybody who wishes to speak to the substantive motion?
Just on a,
do we have any speakers?
On a point of order, Councillor McKenna.
Yes, Councillor De Cruz. Yes.
The claim that Councillor Kiat's motion is a whole new thing. You'll find that actually I've circulated the original motion that Councillor Passis put on the papers way back in May, which actually refers to NCAT. So this isn't a new matter. This is the same related matter. It's just progressed over time since the original motion was put on the council papers. And for some reason it's been omitted, but the staff comments have been republished in the agenda. But the original motion, and I've circulated that, was actually published and referred to NCAT.
Thank you.
Way back in May.
Councillor, thank you, Councillor. Yes, I acknowledge that, but it wasn't on the agenda of this meeting, so it's not relevant to this meeting. So can I go back? Do we have any speakers for this for the substantive motion?
Yep.
Can I speak?
Who is that? Councillor, is that you?
Councillor Porteous.
Councillor Porteous. Yes.
Yeah, look, I thought this was very interesting when I saw this motion on the papers. It's obviously meant to be, particularly the original motion for the mayor to stand down, and the clearly related motion about the lack of confidence in the mayor, and the foreshadowed motion which goes into more detail about some of the reasons for that lack of confidence in the mayor. I think it's been a very fraught term of council. It's largely because of the heinous alliance between Labor and Liberal and Conservative Independent Council Macri, which really has seen the
point of order. The Liberals and the Independents and Councillor Macri have nothing to do with the motions with what we're discussing tonight.
Well, I would.
I hope you've seen the email. I hope you read the
appreciate being
email.
able to continue to speak.
Well, I hope you've seen the email from the General Manager.
Thank you, Councillor. We all saw the email from the General Manager, and that we do really need to make sure that this we can put this to bed one way or another. This is really not good for this council. Now, Councillor Porteous, do you want to continue?
I do, yeah. Look, I mean, you can say what is good for this council. I mean, I would argue that has not been good for this council. It's not produced a good outcome in terms of the general culture of this council being driven by conservative forces, and also in terms of I have to say, a lot of times the behaviour has been really poor, and it's come from largely that the coalition of the willing, the Labor, Liberal, Conservative, Independents working together on issues, and really, I think doing generally a disservice to the community. So there's no surprise here for me that in the final days of this council, we see this attack upon each other, because essentially the former Liberal deputy mayor is now seeking to get the mayor the Labor mayor to stand down. This is the Labor mayor that she has voted for and the Labor mayor that has voted for her, which, as I said, again, has been a terrible disservice to this community. And it's seen a number of issues which we shouldn't have had to deal with in this council. We've got essentially a very progressive council area. Our residents are essentially very progressive. And what we needed to see was much more of the agenda for an aggressive community to come forth. So I can only agree that I have not been happy with the performance of the mayor. I have not been happy with the performance of the deputy mayors either. But we've had to work through that, and I think the Greens have worked through that with a great deal of dignity and very principled way of approaching our agenda and our pushing forward to get as many good progressive outcomes as we could on this council, which essentially voted by majority of Labor, Liberal and Conservative Independent to be a regressive council, not a progressive council. It's very disappointing, but thank God for the Greens on this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Passos.
Yes, thank you. I would agree it hasn't been a very good term of council, but I would say everybody would have to take a bit of blame for it. There must be a reason why the 5 Greens, not one, was re-endorsed. So there must be something wrong there with their performance on council. That speaks for itself.
Point of order. Point of order. This is an act of disorder because it's making derogatory comments about certain councillors, and also an incorrect comment in the case of Councillor De Cruz.
Councillor Passos, would you withdraw that, please?
What did I say that was any worse than what Councillor Portier said about the behaviour of deputy mayors and the Conservative side of council? I will not withdraw that because I don't think I said anything wrong. Everybody must take blame for this term of council. And we are not the chair, I am not the mayor. This is deflecting.
Chair, I'm asking for my point of order to be ruled.
Councillor Steer, I actually don't think Councillor Passos made a particular comment about anybody in any individual. What did she say?
She spoke about the Greens councillors. There are 5 Greens councillors, and therefore we are able to be identified.
And Councillor
and we are able to be identified by that comment, and therefore it was a derogatory comment about the 5 Greens councillors.
Well, Councillor Steer, that would have to. Yeah, well, let me rule on it, Councillor Steer. We would have to then ask Councillor Porteous to withdraw her whole speech because she spoke about the Labor councillors, and that of course includes me, and I don't think I've done anything on this council to warrant being lumped into doing incorrect things. So therefore, it is...
No Labor councillor made a point of order in relation to Councillor Porteous's comments. I have made a point of order in relation to Councillor Passos's comments, and therefore I press that point of order and I want a ruling on it. It's relevant.
It imputes improper motive.
Chair, I did not name names. Councillor Macri was named, and deputy mayors were. One name was named. I did not name names. What I said is fact and did not name names.
All right, thank you. Well, I'm going to rule that there's no need to that I'm not making a ruling on that. So, Councillor Passos, have you finished?
I have.
Thank you.
But thank you very much for being fair in your chairing.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Stamoulis, did you want to speak?
Do you want to speak at the end, Councillor McKenna, given that it's my motion?
Yes, you can. Councillor Drury, you wish to speak?
Yeah, in terms of what has transpired to be the substantive motion, I actually, before before I do, Councillor McKenna, no, in relation to the substantive motion, that council express a lack of confidence in the mayor, then I would simply make the observation that that has come about and that will be voted along party lines. That those people who do not like the mayor will vote for that, and those people who support him will. I think that the lack of confidence will just show that the mayor does not have a majority hold on the council, and that is all that that will show, and therefore it is a fairly meaningless motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Further speakers?
I speak, Councillor McKenna.
Yes, Councillor Kiat.
Thank you. Look, I think Councillor Porteous really expressed my views on this matter pretty well in her speech. Councillor Passes said that she supported the mayor for 2 years. Well, she's actually supported him for 4 years. There's been 2 mayoral votes, and in both, she elected him as mayor. And this has all come about because that alliance has fallen apart. And I'm actually really happy about that. I'm very happy that there's no longer to be an alliance between the Liberals and the Labor councillors on the Inner West Council. Because when I first found out that I was elected 4 years ago, I naively thought that maybe us 5 elected Greens might be able to work with the 5 elected Labor councillors to be the majority bloc on council. And many of the elders said, oh, well, we've tried that before. That has never happened, and it's not going to happen this time. And I said, well, maybe it will. Let's give it a crack. And it didn't happen. And I think one of the key reasons—
Point of order.
Oh, Councillor Passes, please let Councillor speak. What is it? What's your point of order?
Point of order is this has nothing to do with the motion. It's what's transpired in the press.
Thank
and
you.
This has nothing to do with
Councillor Passes doesn't want this.
Councillor Passes, no, he's speaking to the motion. Thank you. Please continue, Councillor Kiat.
As Councillor Drury said, this is exactly why this motion is here. It's because the relationship between Councillor Passes and Councillor Byrne has broken apart, I think, far too late. I mean, I think it's shocking that it's taken this long. Really, it should have broken down much, much earlier. But and that's why he no longer has majority support if there were to be a vote for mayoralty. And that will happen.
Point of order. So NCAT's got nothing to do with this.
Councillor Passes, just please don't stop interjecting. Now, Councillor Kiat, can you finish, please?
Yeah. So again, I'm hopeful, looking forward, that if we have a similar constitution of council, that there won't be a Labor-Liberal alliance. Because I think that will be, as Councillor Porteous said, that's what's going to be in the interest of a progressive Inner West constituency. And that's actually what the people who voted for majority Labor, majority Greens council expect. They don't want to see the Liberals supporting Labor into power and Labor supporting Liberals into power. That's why there's only 2 Liberals on this council out of 15. As John Howard said, it's the iron law of mathematics. So I don't think that should be subverted in the next council. But to come to the reason why I won't be voting for what Councillor Passes and Councillor Stamoulis has put forward, I'm not going to support what Councillor Passes is trying to do. That's her business, that her relationship with Councillor Byrne has broken down.
Point of order. That's misleading the council.
Councillor Passes,
relationship has broken down.
Councillor Passes, please stop interjecting. Councillor Kiat, can you complete your speech? Thank you.
So I won't be supporting a proposal coming from Councillor Passes, but what I will be doing is urging the voters of the Inner West, and particularly people who support Labor Party, to be saying next term, don't support the Liberals into power, don't do a deal with the Libs, work with the Greens to form a majority bloc on council. And there should be power sharing between Labor and the Greens in the next term of council. I think that's very clear. And look, in relation to the points that I've raised in the foreshadowed motion that have been ruled out of order, I won't speak to them because they're pretty self-evident. Unfortunately, there have been a couple of issues on which the mayor has been found to not be acting in accordance with the code of conduct, including by NCAT, and we still don't know what the penalty will be. But that's a proper process. It's not an improper process. It's not improper for us to note that that has occurred. And I think it's very unfortunate. I think it's caused a lot of hurt. But look, that will be for NCAT to decide what the penalty is.
Thank you.
I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Any further speakers? All right, no further speakers. Councillor Stamoulis, do you wish to have your right of reply?
Yes, thank you, Councillor McKenna. Fellow councillors, one of the reasons I put this motion forward with this wording is because I wanted to change this to be about leadership, because the primary thing that we offer as councillors, and we're all going to election in the process of campaigning, we will offer a number of policies to our residents, but the primary thing we offer over a 4-year period is our leadership, the way we govern, how well that is done. And that's why I've clearly expressed that we have a loss of confidence in the mayor, because I think we've lost that aspect. Putting through a policy is an important thing, but 4 years of leadership, and that's what residents put us here for. And I think there has been a failure to lead. I don't know, well, there's a number of reasons for that, and certainly there's a lot of conjecture. I think the other thing is that the politics of this, of course, the mayor won in a vote of 8 versus 7 along political lines. That's just part and parcel.
Thank you. Have you finished?
I went with one camp.
Something's happened.
Councillor,
no, I've got 3 minutes. Do I, Councillor McKenna?
Point of order, something's happened to the recording.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Can now. Thank you.
Yeah, can that now? Okay,
yes.
Thank you. But of course, you know, the mayors win and lose on very narrow votes in the inner west, 8 versus 7. It's along political lines and all that sort of thing. But that's not it. We're talking about leadership. And some of the things we've found, in particular NCAT, with the guilty findings, if this happened on a board or a parents and friends committee, a sports club, or even a charitable institution, you would step aside. But in fact, I didn't push that motion forward. I've simply said there has been a loss of confidence in the mayor and in the leadership. And I think that is the thing that is troubling the people most, our community most out there at this very moment. They're not seeing the leadership they voted for. And they're very concerned about some of the findings they're reading. They also want to hear this debate to know that our councillors themselves are concerned about this and are making comments about it. And how do we feel about it? What is the final motion? Now, I do support Councillor Kiat's motion. I do support that. I think they're valid points, and should this motion of mine not proceed, which is about leadership, I would hope that councillors would support the Kiat-Porteous motion as well. That is, I would happily incorporate that to make this one strong motion on behalf of this council, and to reflect, I believe, what our community is feeling. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll now vote on that, please. All those in favour of the Stamoulis Passus motion, or Passus Stamoulis?
Sorry, Councillor McKenna. I think Councillor Stamoulis just said he was prepared to incorporate Councillor Kiat's motion.
I am.
I'm just wondering where that's going.
I haven't accepted. No.
Well, you don't get to accept it. It's Councillor Stamoulis
Yes, I'm happy.
and Councillor Kiat who get the decision making there rather than yourself, with great respect.
I'm very happy, Councillor Porteous, very happy.
I found that out of order, and that was the ruling.
Could I have?
So,
I would like,
no, we're going to a vote.
I would like to move in that ruling.
The original.
So, Councillor, sorry, just a clarification, Councillor McKenna. Are you now saying that you've ruled the foreshadowed motion out of order?
I did.
On what basis?
On the basis of it could be an active disorder because it makes personal reflections on a councillor. And I've ruled it out of order. I've said it about 10 times, and we need to move. And I note that the motion has actually been changed, but it was ruled out of order with those bits in it, and then they've been taken out for some reason. But I ruled it out of order.
Sorry,
so let's
Councillor McKenna,
proceed.
that's because I asked for them to be removed after the advice was received from Ms.
Let's
Tony.
proceed. That the
Councillor McKenna, you've received advice from the council staff, from the
Councillor Porteous,
General
there's
Counsel.
no question. I made the ruling and I'm sticking with
But Councillor McKenna, you're not the mayor. You're a chair. You sought advice. You got that advice. Now you're ignoring the advice because you don't want to put this motion up. That's kind of risky.
Councillor Porteous.
You should just put it to the vote and see whether it gets the support of council or not. Otherwise, you're
Point of
thwarting the
order, I'd
democratic process.
request that Councillor Porteous stop haranguing the chair.
We just, I have actually made a ruling. I'm sticking with the ruling. We've now had our discussion and we're going to the vote. We've had the debate and we need to vote on this. So could we vote on, please, those councillors in favour of this motion?
Councillor McKenna,
Hang on.
I have a motion of dissent from your ruling that I have sent to the officer. And I think that should be dealt with before we vote on this motion. And the wording is, I've sent it to the officer, and the wording is that that council dissents from the ruling that the chair made disallowing Councillor Kiat's foreshadowed motion. And I'll send that to all councillors now. I've already sent it to Catherine.
All right, we have the procedural motion there. The motion of dissent, Councillor Steer. Does it have a seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor De Cruz, thank you. We'll vote on that. Could those in favour of the dissent in the chair? So that is Councillor Passis, Councillor De Cruz, Councillor Hesse, Councillor Kiat, Councillor Porteous,
Stamoulis,
Councillor Steer, Councillor Lockie looks like she's gone, and looks like Councillor, and of course Councillor Mackley's not there. So
where's Councillor Skander and Rossetti?
Councillor Rossetti, I think, is gone, and I've lost the meeting. I'll just come back here to grab it, see if I can. All right, that's councillors for and councillor against. It's Councillor Drury, Councillor York, Councillor York and myself. So that is lost. 1, 2, 3.
Point of order. I don't think it's
A
lost.
point of order, it's one.
It's one.
Well, it's one. All right. It's one. Yes. Yes. It's in favour. There's more in favour than against. Yes. But, so that is the, so that means that the motion, my ruling has been challenged and reversed. No doubt I need to move to incorporate that into the motion. Is that what is wanted? Is that what the
yes.
Is that the,
yes, that's correct.
I think sorry, I'll let Councillor Steer speak to what, I think she said that it was around the disallowance or finding that my foreshadowed motion was out of order.
Yes, so that needs to be, so the motion now becomes, incorporates Councillor Kiat's motion. I can't see it at the moment.
Into my motion?
Yes, it's gone off the screen. Yes, oh, there it is. It's back there. And so the motion now has the Councillor Kiat motion with the words removed, the concerning words removed. All right, there you are. So
Councillor
that is now the motion. Yes.
Can I just say, I'd like the foreshadowed motion to remain as well without, under my name, and I believe Councillor Porteous was the seconder. Yeah, so
point of order.
The stimulus passes motion.
So, Councillor.
Point of order, Mayor.
Yes, Councillor
Point of order. I think this takes us back to the territory that we've had advice that we shouldn't be going, i.e. casting a aspersion in terms of imputing improper motives, etc., against the Mayor. So I agree with Councillor Kiat that motion now should be out of order for the reasons that we were provided, should be out of order in the first place in relation to the changes that Councillor Kiat needed to make to this motion. We were advised that the motion, if it went to what could be seen as a personal reflection in relation to the Mayor, would be inappropriate. So simply by doing this, we now have the exact motion that we're given advice not to actually move by our General Counsel.
Minus, yeah, thank you, Councillor Drury. It is minus the couple of words that were particularly concerning, notes with concern. So Councillor Kiat has removed those words.
Lack of confidence is worse than notes with concern, surely.
I think the concern is with.
So
the concern with point one of Stamoulis' motion.
Because prior to doing the motion of dissent, we actually had finalised the vote, finalised the debate on the substantive motion. During that debate, Councillor Stamoulis said that he would incorporate this into into his motion, Councillor Kiat's motion. What at that stage was the
Mayor.
So we actually have now, Councillor Kiat is now asking that this be two motions. Is that what you're now asking?
May I speak?
Wait a minute, please. Just let me get this clear. What's the council? What is the will of this council?
I have my motion,
Yeah.
Councillor
Madam Mayor,
McKenna.
Sorry, I think
I
Councillor
have
McKenna
a point
asked
of
me a
order.
question.
Yeah,
I have a point of
you
order.
can't all talk. Councillor Passes, what is your point of order?
A lack of confidence is not illegal. A lack of confidence is not illegal.
Nobody said it was, councillor, so thank you. Councillor,
Yes, Councillor Drury alluded that it was illegal.
no, it wasn't yours. It was the councillor Kiat motion he was talking about. Now, councillor Kiat, what is it you and councillor Porteous want to do? Can you please?
So I'm happy that Councillor Stamoulis has agreed to incorporate the words that I've proposed into his primary motion, but I don't want the foreshadowed motion to be withdrawn. So, and there's still separate motions because obviously the primary motion has point 1, which was from Councillor Passes and Councillor Stamoulis.
All right. So
I hope that's clear.
I apologise, Councillor McKenna, but I think I need to get advice of the General Counsel on this point, because I believe expressing a lack of confidence is far worse personal reflection than express concern. Can we go back to the General Counsel on that point?
If the General Counsel is available, I'm not sure. General Manager, are you there?
Point of order. We've already gone to the General Counsel and we've asked them for comment on the motions as they stand, and we've had that advice back. Nothing was raised about the lack of confidence motion, which was the standard motion. I think this is just delaying this even further. And I would also note that Councillor Drury is not in the chair. It is
Councillor Porteous.
and
Thank
Councillor
you.
McKenna has already ruled.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now,
Now,
get a vote basically.
So we have a foreshadowed motion which we need to vote on to see if it is incorporated into the main motion.
We don't have to vote on it to go into the main motion. Stamoulis has agreed to put it into the motion. It goes into the motion, whether Councillor Kiat wants it to or not. But Councillor Kiat has said that he wants it also to stand as a separate motion because he doesn't want number 1, which is Councillor Stamoulis's motion, to be in his motion. So we've got 2 motions, one with and one without point 1.
So I'm lost.
I'm not. Would you like me to take over the chairing, Councillor McKenna?
No, I don't understand how we have to vote on 2 motions.
Well, one motion, the first motion is the motion that Councillor
which is now the substantive motion.
And then the substantive motion, and it incorporates Councillor McKenna, Councillor Kiats.
So we're going to vote substantive. We are now going to vote on the substantive motion. Thank you.
That's all right.
And we are going, so.
Point of order is that Councillor Drury has requested advice on that motion.
Yes.
We have been over 1 hour on this, maybe more.
Thank you, Councillor.
Acceptable.
Yes, I know about that.
Sorry, Councillor McKenna, I must insist, we're given very clear advice in relation to the advice in relation to Councillor Kiat's motion. I believe the same advice should apply to the now Stamoulis Passes advice, and it should be ruled out of order for exactly the same reason of a personal reflection or imputing improper motives.
I'm happy to
get
seek
General
advice.
Counsel on that.
I'm happy to seek advice.
General Manager, are you there?
Yes, Chair, I'm here, and so is the General Counsel.
Oh, right. Could you just comment, please, on this now, which I'm being asked to rule on, that the express a lack of confidence in the Mayor, does that have the same reflection as the other that we talked about in about insults or makes personal reflections or imputes improper motives. Would that motion in itself have that come into that category?
I'm just going to go through the General Counsel.
Thank you, if you wouldn't mind asking. Thanks.
Through the chair, it's really a matter for the chair as to whether or not the words would have that effect. So to express a lack of confidence in the mayor, it's the chair that has to rule on the
Thank you.
proposal.
Thanks very much. All right. So that puts me back into the hot seat. Thank you. Well, Councillor Drury.
Let's just vote on the two motions. Let's get it over with.
Let's just vote on it, and I think thank you for that. I think it is what it is. No matter what we're going to say, it's as you've already indicated, it's going to be voted along party lines. It's not going to be. So, all those in favour? Hands up. Councillor Passis. Councillor Passis and Councillor Stamoulis. All those against? All those against? All right, so that vote is lost. We'll now move to the foreshadowed motion.
Can you tell me what councillors are participating in this meeting?
What is it, Councillor Passis?
What councillors are participating in this meeting?
Well, there's quite a lot of people not in the meeting. But
well, I've just had a look at the graph there.
Point of order, can we just take a vote?
We'll just do the vote. Thank you, Councillor Passis.
Oh,
so voting against that motion, did you get that, Catherine? The against was?
It was recorded, yeah.
It was recorded, all recorded?
Yes, I did get that.
Thank you very much. So we'll now go to the foreshadowed motion.
Is Lockie absent or here?
Councillor Lockie's out, as far as I know. She declared an interest and left.
Then she's recorded as against. Good.
Oh, is she? I think she's not here.
Yeah, Catherine's just fixed that. Thanks, Councillor McKenna.
Thank you.
Well, where is Councillor Rossetti? Where is Councillor Rossetti?
Councillor Rossitti's left the meeting.
I've never had that on the graph.
She's recorded as against.
Well, I don't think she's in the meeting. She wasn't a while ago.
Councillor McKenna, Councillor Rossetti is in the meeting and her video is on.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Now we'll take the vote on the foreshadowed motion. All in favour? That is Councillor Passis, De Cruz, Hesse, Piat, Porteous, Steer, Stamoulis. Rossetti, are you for or against?
Against. Against.
Against is Councillor Drury, Councillor McKenna, and Councillor York and Councillor Rossetti. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 for and 4 against. So that is supported. Thank you.
Thanks, Lucille. A very difficult moment, but thank you.
And thank you. Can we call the mayor back, please?
Okay, just hold on.
If he's coming. And the deputy mayor.
I'll do Catherine, or someone can call the deputy mayor. I'll call the mayor.
Thank you.
Should we break for 3 minutes?
Yeah, do you want to do that?
Yeah, let's have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Councillors, are we all back?
Yes.
All right. Are we right to start the meeting again?
Thank you. Thank you.
The Mayor is indisposed at the moment, so I'll be taking over until he gets back. Okay, Councillor Hesse, we'll just wait for the meeting to go back on. Are we back on live, Catherine?
Yes, Councillor Macri, we're all good.
Okay. Councillor Hesse, the canoe launching ramps at Mackie Park, I'm happy to second that. You can go ahead.
Thanks, Councillor Macri. I appreciate that. Look, as I said, I seem to forget who are writing these things. As Simon, who spoke from the River Canoe Club, said, they're doing great things down there. They're getting the community involved, but the launching ramp is in desperate need of some love and affection. I do note the officer's comments about the state of the wall. I should say, though, that the 2 points that the stairs enter on the riverside are both loose, the 2 sandstone blocks, and the wall immediately upriver is sagging. And in the 22 years I've lived in this part of Marrickville, I go down there very regularly. It's sagging a lot. Luckily, the alignment of the river means the worst of the flood water tends to go away from that wall, but how much longer it will stay up, I don't know. But ultimately, though, this is about improving the amenity for the River Canoe Club and for the many and increasing number of residents who use our river, which is something we want them to do. We invest a lot of money and time into it. They're not looking for the super duper multi-million dollar launch ramp up at Ewan Park in Canterbury Bankstown area, but it's an at-grade entrance into the river, which would be a much better thing to do than launching off the steps. I've done it myself. It's a bit ugly. So, as I say, if we can put this on the agenda and get it moving, I think that'd be a very good thing for the local community in Marrickville, but I know people who canoe come from across our local government area. So this is something I think will be warmly welcomed by many. Thank you.
Thank you. Further speakers? If there's no further speakers, I'll just chime in. I'll say, look, I think it's a very worthwhile project down there. Everything we can do to activate Cooks River only makes it more important to the community, and I fully support this. I wonder, the new Butte Super Duper launch facility at Ewan Park is great, but I thought we were moving towards actually getting a crossing which could deliver a similar thing. I hope that's still in the actual plan of management for Cooks River. Perhaps we'll look at that then, but I'm very happy to support this. No further speakers. Colin, would you like to close, or?
I think we've said it all, Vic. Hopefully everyone will just support it.
Yep. Okay. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against, maybe? Do I hear any? I don't hear any voices against because I can't always hear you, but is anyone against? Otherwise, I'll declare it unanimous. Thank you.
Vic, sorry. Do we have a quorum?
I can't tell
For
you.
Macri, I should have said.
No, sorry. I can see myself, Councillor De Cruz, Councillor Hesse. I see Councillor Dury at the back of the room. I see Councillor Stamolis. I see Councillor McKenna, Councillor Porteous, and yourself. I see Councillor Rossetti walking around the room. Councillor York, I don't see. Councillor Kiat, I only see a photo, and Councillor Steer. I see
we've
just
got a quorum. Yeah.
Yep, I think we do.
Thanks, Councillor Macri. Just wanted to make sure you could get this through.
Yep, no problem. Item 9, the Rotunda Pioneer Park addressing ibis droppings, more frequent cleaning.
Yeah, look, sorry to bring this item to the attention. It's basically about a lot of shit. That's a joke.
Okay.
Basically, it's basically there's a lot of droppings which are causing a major headache for users of the rotunda down in Pioneer Park in Leichhardt. You probably know Pioneer Park in Leichhardt, where we have music concerts, including the famous carols in December every year. And we have a lot of school concerts there because we've got the Leichhardt Public School nearby. It's a very popular park for many users. And also one of the users is a Tai Chi older women's group who uses the park regularly for their Tai Chi sessions. But what's happened more recently is the white Australian white ibises started roosting in the roof of the rotunda, and they're basically defecating on the floor of the rotunda, which is creating a safety issue, and also, I guess mainly a health and safety issue. Slip sliding is not a pleasant thing on ibis droppings. So when I spoke to the staff, it was only being cleaned every 3 months, which is really not going to be enough. So there's a request for that to be increased, and obviously a request as well that we look at a report on other options for an ecological way to address this problem. I mean, obviously respecting the fact that the Australian white ibis are protected under Section 98 of the New South Wales National Parks and Wildlife Act. But I think it's quite important that we put some prioritisation on resolving this, because that is a very popular park. The Rotunda is probably the only flat place, as the women of the Tai Chi group have pointed out. A couple of them spoke at our last meeting, and they would obviously, like as the many other users, the school uses the rotunda quite a lot as well, actually, to be able to use that safely, knowing that it's being regularly cleaned, and to have a long-term solution as well, I think is really important in terms of seeing what we can do to address where the ibis are roosting, or possibly putting in some other measures like possibly a shade sail or something like that to address the droppings falling on the stage there. So that's the motion I'm putting forward this evening.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that?
I'll second that. And a question through the chair.
Yep. Do you want to speak to it, Councillor Moore?
Question through the chair.
Yeah. It's a terrible connection, John.
Thank you, Councillor Macri. How do we deal with item 3 at this present moment? Thank you. How do we deal with point 3 of the motion at this moment? Thank you.
Question through. Okay, funding for the additional deep clean rotunda be included in the final budget. Well, I suppose that's a question through to the officers.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, that's incorporated. We spoke to the relevant staff who said they're able to, within existing resources, undertake the additional deep cleans.
Oh, great.
When the motion originally put.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any further speakers? Was that seconded by you, Councillor Stamoulis, I believe?
Yes, thank you.
If there's no further speakers, Councillor Porteous, do you want to close or?
No, look, I think as the General Manager has indicated, there's no cost to council, and it's been incorporated to have these extra cleans, which I'm really happy about. I'm hoping that there won't be any issue in terms of supporting this motion. So I'll leave it to the councillors to vote on this.
Okay. All those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against? Do I hear any voices against? I'll say it's carried with all the councillors that are here at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 10, Councillor Porter, don't go too far because that's one of yours, Gladstone Park toilets, footpaths and waste bins.
Yeah, look, I guess living in Balmain Hospital for the last 7 or 8 months, and I'll share with you that I've managed to finally leave the hospital in the last couple of days. Yay. So I'm actually home now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very good news.
Feels much better, I'll tell you. Trying to do council meetings from a council bed, from a hospital bed is not fun. But obviously the park was where I was able to get out to get a bit of fresh air. The only park I was able to. So you get to see it quite intensely. And coincidentally as well, I do get people phoning me up about it. One of the issues that's been raised with me by a few people, and I think the gentleman spoke about this as well when he came to speak at our meeting, was the issue with the toilets, the men's toilets particularly, which are really quite abysmal. And I know that the council staff, since I've raised it with the council staff, because I had raised this a while ago a couple of times to see what could be done about it, and I had a look at the toilet strategy to see what we were doing about that. But I do think we just need to prioritise it a bit more than we actually are at the moment, because it's clearly in a very poor state, and issues like the smell and the I think a lack of safety with the way it's currently constructed. I don't think they can wait until we see a rebuild in possibly 22, 23. I think there's some short-term measures we need to do to address that. And so that's the ask that we do a proper audit of the toilets and seek to implement a short-term solution on the upgrade to address these safety and maintenance and smell issues. The other issues, and the other issue which concerns me with the toilets is we don't seem to acknowledge the fact that Gladstone Park is a heritage park. It's actually one of the most important heritage parks we've got in the Balmain Peninsula. It obviously has the pump building on it, and also the underground reservoir But the park itself also has a really substantial history. And to a certain extent, the toilets are part of that as well. So the recommendation in the toilet strategy currently is just demolish them. And there's really no mention of the fact that this is a heritage park. So I'd like that to be revisited and just to see how we can commit. We do need an accessible toilet. There's no accessible toilets at all in the park. So I think that is a priority. But whether or not we demolish those toilets or whether we somehow retain them because they're part of a heritage park, I think that needs another look. So that's what that is looking at point 2. The waste, they're often full, they're often overflowing. And almost every time I go through the park, because a lot of people know me as a councillor, they say, how come you haven't got enough people coming and clearing the bins? Why are the bins always overflowing? So I have called staff on a few occasions to ask, how many times we're clearing the bins, why the bin's full. But I think it probably needs more attention than it's getting, because the location of Gladstone Park is pretty unique. It's on Darling Street, so it's got a lot of traffic, a lot of people coming up from Darling Street with takeaway food. The hospital's in front of it. It's quite a substantial hospital. It's got well over 100 staff. A lot of them who eat their lunch in the park on sunny days. It's got 2 really substantial schools, and it's got a substantial church and a number of businesses backing onto a preschool business, preschools and health services and things like that. So it's in a lot of use. It's always very busy as a park, and a lot of people do take their lunch there as well. So it needs to be, these bins need to be emptied more frequently there than they are, particularly at the weekend where they're just not getting emptied and they're overflowing a lot. And finally, I look at the footpaths. I mean, unfortunately, being that I now have to use a wheelchair, you really notice the footpaths, and you notice when the footpaths are in a bad state and are dangerous for people who are in a wheelchair. And I think that because of the use of Gladstone Park, because it's right next to the hospital, and the hospital has a whole ward, which is a rehab ward, it really should be paying more attention to the footpaths. They're just not great. And it doesn't take that much to get them to a better grading state where they'll just be a bit safer. Because a lot of people that are using them are also using them and learning how to use a wheelchair. You want to have a safe environment for them.
Can you wind up, because you've had over your 3 minutes now?
Okay, I've wound up. There you go.
Wound up. Thank you. Thank you. A seconder for that motion?
I have.
Councillor Stamolis seconds. Do you want to say?
Look, I'd like to concur with Councillor Porteous. I think this is a very, very good motion, and this, of course, is a premier park on the Balmain Peninsula, but it gets intensive use because of its location near the shopping village, next to the hospital, a bowling club's there, 2 schools, as Councillor Porteous has pointed out, a church. Very, very few parks are positioned in such a way to draw on every single group. There's play equipment, in fact 2 sets of play equipment there, and there's a basketball court on that park. It's a thoroughfare as well, from one part of Balmain to another. So it's got every single thing you could think of for a park. So it requires attention, and the frequency of that attention is very important. I'd also like to highlight while I'm speaking that we are now back in COVID, and this places a big impact, a much more increased impact on all of our local parks. And it would be wonderful if the staff could quickly look at that again as to the emptying of the bins, the quality of facilities in those parks. I know they're doing as good a job as possible, but COVID does place that additional burden. I've been to a few of the parks, each day myself, and I noticed the bins are overflowing in a number of those. So possibly if there's an opportunity for the general manager and staff to look at that, that'd be wonderful. But thanks, Councillor Porteous, for this motion.
Okay, any further speakers? Councillor De Cruz, do I see your hand up?
Yes, Just a few words. Thanks to Councillor Porteous for bringing this motion to council. I've had over the past few years a friend who's spent extended times in Balmain Hospital, and visiting the park was a really important thing. And it's sad to know that the path hasn't been fixed in all that time, because I certainly reported the state of the poor state of that the path from the hospital for people travelling in wheelchairs to use the park, which is a really important aspect of people recovering from surgery or whatever else they're in hospital for. And I guess the second part is, one of the speakers to this motion, I think now some time ago, mentioned, made reference to General William Holmes, and I think it should be acknowledged that William Holmes was actually the head of the Water Board before he signed up, and he also was the man who was responsible for the evacuation of Gallipoli, which is quite significant, and then he rose to general and was sadly killed on the battlefield by a stray bullet while accompanying Premier Holman on the battlefield in World War I. So I think there's some really significant historical references in that park, and that could perhaps be highlighted in looking at the maintenance and the operation of that park, and also that it plays a really, really important role for people who are in hospital and gives them an outlet to get into the real world. So thank you to Councillor Porteous for bringing this to council.
Okay, if there's no further speakers, Councillor Porteous, would you like to close, or can we just go to voting?
No, I'm happy for us to go to the vote. Thanks, Councillor Macri.
Okay, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Do I have any dissenters? No? All good, that's passed unanimous. Okay, we'll go to item 11. Councillor Jury, notice of motion, Summerhill residents must be heard. Smith Street development. All yours.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And look, there is a proposed development for 55 to 63 Smith Street, which will be considered by the planning panel. And there is a strong concern in the community that the panel consider all the items that they are required to under section 4.15 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act. And in particular, what many of the residents are asking the panel to consider is a draft instrument, which is the new Housing Diversity Plan, SEP, which has been agreed by the state government, but has yet to go through the formal process of being put into action. I think that this is quite an important point, because the new Housing Diversity SEP will put in place a whole lot of provisions which will greatly improve the sort of affordable housing that is made under that provision. And whilst it's not perfect, it would be a very big step forward. I and many other councillors and this council have for a very long time pointed out the major problems that there are with the affordable housing SEP. The affordable housing SEP as it currently stands does not guarantee affordable housing, and that is a major problem. I'm glad the government's recognised it. I'm glad that new provision will come into play. And I do hope, as do many of the residents, that the planning panel gives due consideration for that point. I will note that as a councillor, I do not get to exercise a vote in relation to a DA matter. I do understand that there is in place.
Sorry, Councillor Drury, can you wind up? You've had over 3 minutes now. Unless someone wants to give you an extension of time.
Can I have a minute, please? This is a fairly important issue for.
I'll move that way.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Hesse. I'll second it. All in favour say aye. You got an extra minute. Go for it.
No.
Yeah. No, I do understand that it is the planning panel's responsibility and that they are the consent authority. However, as a local councillor, I feel the need to express the views of many in the community who have approached me and pointed out concerns in relation to this development. I respect the fact that it is the planning panels. They are the consent authority. They will make decisions. What this motion does is draw to their attention the strong community concern in relation to the weighting they may give to certain provisions. Chair, can we just remove point 5, because that has been, that was relevant when I first moved the motion, but it is no longer relevant.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
happy to second that, Councillor Macri.
Councillor Hesse, do you want to speak to it?
Yes, briefly, if I may.
Yep, certainly.
I'd like to commend Councillor Drury for bringing this motion to council, and I endorse heartily his comments. I had the opportunity to speak to the 2 residents who spoke to us at council some weeks ago, and I was very impressed with their arguments. I should say, though, that what really I think Councillor Drury's motion highlights is the problem not just of this particular use of the SEP, but of the removal of the community from the planning process. It is very, very clear, in my view, that this process, that this application is deeply flawed. It is likely, in my view, to produce a very poor amenity for those who may live in it. And I think that really, it is, to say the least, a less than optimal outcome in planning terms. And that we have a state government which is prepared to oversee that is not okay. It's removed the community's voice from the decision-making process. And while I may absolutely make no comment at all on any individual on the planning panel, I think it's disappointing that the planning panel will not meet the community. That, I think, is emblematic of how decision-making has been put behind closed doors. And we know what happens behind closed doors. And to say this is not a reflection at all on the planning panel or any of its members. It's a reflection on the government that when it puts these planning decisions behind closed doors, it invites unhappiness in our community and a loss of confidence in government processes and in the reasonableness of those decisions. And I think that is a detriment to the good people who serve on the planning panels, just as it's a detriment to the community at large. So I do hope that people will support this motion. And frankly, I would encourage, this council is just about to end, but I think Councillor Drury has actually shown us the way here. And as I say, I commend him for this. I would like to see the next council, a lot of councillors bring these things up, because the state government needs a shot across their bows. They've got very poor planning controls, which are delivering poor outcomes to our community and poor outcomes to residents. We saw that article in the Sydney Morning Herald. I think it said 45% of new flats have major structural problems. And we have a state government that seems to think this is okay. It's not okay. Our planning system is broken from top to bottom, and a lack of oversight from our community, from councillors, is a really serious problem. So thanks, Councillor Drury.
Further speakers? Do we have any further speakers? I might just ask a question to the relevant officer regarding point 4. Is that relevant still? Request that the planning panel have a meeting to arrange that representatives of local residents provide feedback with regards to the advice that's given here. My understanding is the planning panel does have a site inspection. I just probably want to find out if that's still the case.
Yep, through the chair, the planning panel does undertake site inspections as part of their assessment and review of the applications prior to making a decision on the matter. And if objectors and submitters wish to have the planning panel visit their site, they can request to do so prior to the meeting, and the planning panel or the chair, if they agree, can make arrangements to attend the site, provided all social distancing and COVID safe plans are in place. Now, in terms of item 4, the planning panel will be undertaking a public meeting under the mandate by the state government. It's online meetings, it's not face-to-face meetings for planning panels, and they will be doing that, and that's where the submitters, applicant and any other stakeholders have the ability to address the planning panel to speak and express their concerns. Now, I have had some consultation with the panel chair, the primary chair, and he's expressed that that's what the procedures will be undertaken and will be done.
Okay. All right. Does that satisfy you with that response, Councillor Drury? I can't hear you. Can you unmute?
I understand the response. I understand the decision of the chair that has been made after he received advice from the department. I would still like to have that in as a request. I understand it's a request that will not be met. However, in keeping with what Councillor Hesse has said, I'm putting a shot across the bow.
Okay, no problem. If there's no further speakers, Councillor Drury, do you need to close, or can we just go to voting?
I think I kind of did.
Yeah, okay. All right, all those in favour say aye. Those against? I don't hear any voices in dissent. Okay, carried unanimously. Okay.
Councillor Macri, I've just returned to the meeting.
Okay, Chair, no problem.
Thanks very much. Can I just confirm that we're up to item 12?
We're on item 12, yes, Chair.
Okay, thanks very much. I'll move that motion without speaking to it. Is there a seconder for the motion?
Can I second it, please, Mayor?
Seconded by Councillor McKenna. Do you wish to speak to it?
I do.
Please do.
I haven't chosen to speak at all tonight, but I would just like to speak this is just the most wonderful place, this Rozelle School of Visual Arts. As the motion tells us, they've been there for such a long time, since 1974, I think, or something like that, but a long, long time, 71. But my 25-year-old grandson, who is now a ballet dancer in Germany, he started to learn ballet at the Rozelle School of Visual Arts when he was 3. So it has I'm a very fond place in my heart, this organisation, this school, and the 2 women that run it. They are just wonderful, just wonderful. Thank you.
Well, there you go. What a lovely personal anecdote, and that is reflective of lots of the stories that I've heard and which motivated the drafting of this motion. Thanks very much for that. There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously, I presume. Is there anyone against? No? Excellent. Let's move on to item 13, notice of motion, opposition to changes to 370 bus service.
I'm happy to second.
Is the mover going to speak?
Aren't you the mover?
Oh, sorry, my mistake. I thought maybe I'd seen one from Councillor Steer. I'm losing track. Okay, no need to speak. I'll put that. All those in favour?
Hang on, I'm happy to second, and I'd like an amendment.
Okay, go ahead.
Could we just change Newtown to St. Peter's, please?
Yeah, okay, no problem.
And we'll, and I might just comment that unfortunately submissions closed on the 29th of June, so this will be a late submission, but I think it's very worthwhile that council puts in a submission on this issue. Thanks.
Yep, well, let's do it anyway. Good idea. Okay, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Next item, item 14, is mine as well. Ask the minute taker to bring it up on the screen. I just want to speak very briefly to thank the speakers who registered for the item from the various local environmental groups. Just a couple of points in relation to the thoughtful comments that they made. Point 1 notes the update on Council's sustainable fleet transition from August 25, 2020. That's not an endorsement of that. I don't think that's an adoption of that as Council's policy. I think there was some concern expressed that the detail within the memo which was issued from Mr. Deegan was not entirely optimal in terms of a policy position. This motion doesn't seek to endorse that, but just to note that piece of advice has been provided to Council. And the intention really of this motion is to get the issue back on the agenda of the next Council, which will be elected in September. And I think there's broad agreement. So I'd prefer not to have a lengthy debate on particular items. I don't claim to be a very accomplished expert on the transition to electric vehicles, but the purpose of the motion is to try to make sure that we're all a bit more learned and expert about that in the next term of Council, with a range of things to be considered. So I'd be happy to incorporate any simple amendments that people might have, but if there was going to be a lengthy debate about it all, I'd prefer just to amend it to say that a report come back on the issues raised to the new Council in October or November. Councillor De Cruz?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think you're highlighting the concerns that have been raised by the community about that August 2020 report briefing note, I believe it was, referring to the transition to hybrid, and that's in fact become policy of Council. So I think the community is raised significant concerns with that report and that strategy, and would actually like a report to be brought back earlier so that perhaps the new Council can actually act on this report, and if it can be tabled sooner than later, that would be preferable. So have you amended your motion to bring back a report on the transition of the fleet at this stage?
I'm happy to. When did you want to propose that it be reported back?
I noticed perhaps the relevant officer could provide us with some advice on that.
On what?
On whether a report can be provided back. I have been provided some information about the transition, but really, basically, the significant issue that the community is concerned about is the proceeding with the hybrids rather than the electric vehicles at this stage. So, if a report can be tabled at the next meeting with that information, it would be useful.
I think that's more of a question on notice. I'm happy to put that as a question to the council officers, and I'm happy to consider amending the motion that a report be brought back in October. I don't think it's realistic that we'll get a proper report on electric vehicle transition between now and the last meeting of this council. But I'll put the question. The question raised to the council. I'll put the question right. Sorry, Councillor De Cruz. I'll come back to you, but I'll just put your question about the hybrid issue to the council officers.
Thank you, Chair. It would be our preference to bring something back to give enough time to the new council. I'm happy to do it early in the term of the new council to bring it back for their consideration.
Okay, well, I'll amend the motion so that it now reads that council receive a report at the October or November ordinary meeting with the points still listed below. Receives a report at the October or November ordinary meeting on the following.
I think we specifically need it to be the electric vehicle transition. And in particular, I mean, comments were made in the budget report in response to the comments from the community. So I think we can look at electric vehicles earlier than later, because I suppose the concern the community has is if purchasing decisions are being made on that briefing note, and certainly leases are being entered into. That is the concern the community has. So if the General Manager can assure us that there's not leases being entered into at this point.
Well, sorry, Councillor De Cruz, you've spoken to the matter. I've amended the motion as per your request to require a report back. I've stipulated October or November, so if you'd like to move a further amendment that we vote on for there to be an earlier date, then that's the way we'll have to deal with that amendment.
Yeah, okay, I'm having difficulty reading. Where have you incorporated the amendment for a report back?
It's not displayed on the screen yet, but I just spoke to it a moment ago. So it would read that council receive a report to the October or November ordinary meeting on the following, and then leave all of those points unamended.
But as I understand it, the rest of your points are about the community, not the transition of the council fleet.
I'm happy to accept a further amendment from you specifying something else that you'd like included in the report.
I think it's the transition to fully electric vehicles. The report is about the transition of the council fleet to fully electric vehicles.
What's the amendment, Councillor De Cruz?
The amendment is that the report is the transition to fully electric vehicles.
You're confusing me now. I've got a list of items that would be reported on. If you'd like to add to that list of items, or you have a different foreshadowed motion you'd like to move, then we can deal with that. But I was really trying to avoid a prolonged debate. The whole purpose of agreeing to a report back was to avoid everybody having to sit here for a lengthy period of time discussing such a complex policy area in detail. So if there's a simple amendment that you'd like to move to add to the list of items, I'm very happy to accept it.
Yeah, the issue, Councillor.
Sorry, Councillor De Cruz. Sorry, Councillor De Cruz. I'm not going to go back and forth in conversation. Can I ask you to let us know if you have a further amendment that you'd like to move?
I'm having difficulty reading your amendment, but let it go. Let it go.
Okay, so we've got the primary motion moved by myself, seconded by Councillor De Cruz. which now requires a report back on all of those issues in October or November. I'll put that motion. All those in favour?
I did ask, could I speak? I did ask, could I speak?
Councillor Passos.
Yes, if through you to any officer, if they're around, do we have any idea how much this is going to cost? What this would cost council?
How much what is going to cost, Councillor Passos?
Electric vehicles.
I'm sorry, I'll need a more specific question than that.
Well, I'd like to know if we're talking about fleets and fleets, would anybody know off the top of their head what it costs our vehicles that are not electric, our petrol vehicles and diesels? What is the difference in the cost for electric vehicles? How many years or?
I imagine that'll be taken on notice and can be included in the report that we're about to require, but I'll put that question to the officers.
Thanks, through the chair. Yeah, you're right. That is something we'll incorporate into the report. At the moment, we're getting hybrid vehicles for some of our passenger fleet, but that's just on the market price that's available at this point in time, and it's changing all the time as more electric vehicles become available. But we'll incorporate that back into the report.
Thank you very much.
I have two amendments.
Please do.
I would like to add these two amendments that the report include a view on council's plan for a complete transition starting in the 21-20. And the other amendment talks or purchase passenger utility fleet vehicles will be zero emissions vehicles beginning no later than the end of financial year 2021-22. It would be good that the report also addresses that plan forward, so that our community is aware of the commencement of these activities and also expectations for how soon they will be completed. Thank you.
Oh, sorry about that. I was on mute. I'm just going to put a question to the council officers about the point A of Councillor Stamoulis's amendment, whether that is in keeping with the existing policy or whether that would be reported on in the report to come later in the year.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I think it'd be prudent to bring them back as part of the report. Are you happy to consider all of these actions and items that have been put forward? I think it'd be prudent to have it back in the report.
Okay,
I'll speak on the amendment.
I'll incorporate both points into the primary motion. So they're all matters that will be considered as part of the report. Thanks very much for that, Councillor Stamos.
May I speak on this amendment?
Yeah, have you already spoken on it, Councillor Passos? No.
Not on this amendment.
Well, it's been incorporated, so there's no further debate.
Why?
It's been incorporated.
Well, I wanted to speak. I asked to speak on it. Oh, well, I can't get my point of view across. I vote against it. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Well, it's been incorporated, so there's no need for further debate. I'll put if there's no further discussion, I'll now put the primary motion. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried with, I believe, Councillor Passos against. Is that correct, Councillor Passos?
Mayor, for some reason, this is Councillor Steer, for some reason I've been crossed off the list. I am still here.
Yeah,
right. Thank you.
Yes, I voted against something.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Passos. Councillor Passos is against.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much.
The motion has been carried. We'll move on to the next item. We're really not very far from the finish, councillors, so if we could try to keep things moving, that would be great. The next item is Hammond Park.
Yes, I've put this motion up, and those questions that are in this motion are on behalf of residents. There are a lot of residents living in the vicinity of Hammond Park that have tried on numerous occasions to get answers, and they still haven't got them. And what's in this report here, they say, still does not answer their concerns. Firstly, it says the use of the sport in the grounds complies with the park plan of management, and the canteen was permitted in 2017. When in 2017? Was it under the administration, or was it in council in September? When? And I also recall when the issue came of the Pirates playing in Hammond Park, there were hundreds of people and objections that did not want that. Contrary to what it says, there are not children that play there, they're adults. I'm not against this type of use, but it seemed to have come about and the residents are very, very upset about it. They haven't been told about what's happening, and the van licensed? I'm led to believe that they use extension cords for power. And to say that, oh, the van's good for the residents to use, and one resident told me that she was told, oh, the coffee's great. That was her answer when she wanted to know about the food van. Now, we need to know what's going on here. It's not affecting me. It's affecting the residents surrounding the park. There are signs there. We had problems with trailers, and the no parking signs have been removed. There's only poles. There are cars parking on the footpath, and it's very dangerous. And as I said, I've spoken to the residents. I said, I've put your questions to council by way of motion that it's on the agenda. They're not happy with the replies. So I'm not happy with the replies, and I would like that this council goes back. When did the Pirates? The residents tell me it's not under the plan of management. They were completely ignored. They want to know exactly when this was approved and when the Pirates were approved to play there, the adult games, and about the van. The only answer we got was about the laneway, and I'm glad about that. So, councillors, this is not my ward. And I can tell you there are a lot of upset residents there. So where this motion goes, I don't know, but I would like council to
Councillor Passos, your time has expired. Is there a seconder for the motion?
Yes, I'll second it, Councillor De Cruz.
Do you wish to speak to it?
Only to echo to thank Councillor Passos for bringing the motion and to echo her comments about the community being very concerned about the use of the park. And there's been lots of correspondence about whether it conforms with the plan of management and approvals for the coffee truck, etc. I think that's something we do need to be concerned about when we install lighting and extend the use of these local playground, local parks, how that impacts on residents. It's from the parking, the amount of people that turn up. And it actually, I guess one of the major things is that it removes the passive recreation area from the locals. So yes, I'm happy to support this motion, and I hope other councillors will also support it. Thanks.
There's no further discussion. I go to Councillor Passos for a right of reply.
Well, my right of reply is I'm led to believe, and I know this after so many years, there are two residents adjacent to the park. They seem to be the spokes people, and they feel that they haven't been treated very well when they speak to council. But I can assure you these people are speaking on behalf of a lot of other people in the area. and I want something, and they want something done about the parking on the footpath. It's wrecking the footpaths. The footpaths down there need repairing. The people using the laneway, apparently new playground equipment has gone in right alongside the residents' home. It is not good. They lose privacy as well as the noise. They know they live near a park, but the intense use of the park is unacceptable. So I really would like, I'm afraid to say, they're not happy with this report, and neither am I. So I would like council to go one step further, take this issue seriously, because the residents are really ready to go further.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands and keep them raised. In support, I have councillors Passos, De Cruz, Hesse, Drury, Macri, Stamoulis, Lockie, Porteous, Steer. Here, I'm going to assume it's unanimous. Is there anyone who's against the motion? No, that's been carried unanimously. Last item, request for mobility parking space.
May I say, after a lot of to and fro and with good support from the Deputy Mayor and the council officers, I'm withdrawing this motion. I think.
Okay, the motion's withdrawn. Thanks very
Yes.
much, Councillor Passos. I declare the meeting closed. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Ron. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.